Bonjour et bienvenue au premier podcast d'Espace Microcaps.tv. Aujourd'hui, j'ai avec moi John London, CEO de Nuvo Pharmaceuticals, une société pharmaceutique spécialisée cotée à la bourse du TSX sous le sigle boursier NRI. Hello, John. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
First, could you give our audience a quick overview of Nuvo, its history, and product portfolio, please?
Sure. So we're a life sciences company. We're based in Toronto. We have a manufacturing facility just outside of Montreal here in Varennes. We used to develop drugs as well as sell drugs throughout the world. However, about a year ago, we made the strategic decision that we didn't want to be in the drug development business anymore because that's a very expensive and risky business. We were fortunate in that we'd been able to get some drugs through the approval process, which is very technical and complicated, and they were selling. So we spun out our R&D business a year ago to another public company, leaving Nuvo as a pure play revenue generating profit growth pharmaceutical company with products that are selling around the world. We have cash flow, we have a strong balance sheet with no debt and $17 million of cash on the balance sheet, and we're looking to grow the business.
Okay. From a more personal basis, John, could you tell me what is your background and how did you get involved with the company?
It's not what you'd expect for a pharmaceutical business. I have no background in pharmaceuticals originally.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer by training. I graduated from Western Law School, did a Master's of Law at University College London, practiced law at a Bay Street firm for several years, was a partner there, ended up leaving and going to Magna, the car parts people, and I was there as part of an executive management team for one of their groups for 5 years, and from there, several of us left and started our own auto parts company, which we took public and eventually sold to Magna. We took some time off, and it was at that time that my partner and I invested as a passive investment in the predecessor to Nuvo, thinking that it was an interesting business. And to make a long story short, we thought that the company was grossly mismanaged, so in 2004, we started a proxy fight, which we won, kicked out the old board, and started managing a business which, as we discovered, was effectively bankrupt. We had $50 million of debt. We had no approved products, and in fact, the lead product, Pennsaid at the time, which we'll talk about in a moment, that had been turned down by the FDA, and the company had not disclosed that to the investment community.
What did you do?
Well, we used to say the good news was we won the proxy fight and the bad news was that we won the proxy fight. But we just decided to roll up our sleeves and restructure the business. So we restructured the debt, we raised some money, we ran Pennsaid through the clinical trials that FDA required and ultimately got it approved. So if you fast forward to a year ago, by that stage of the game, we had 4 approved products, $50 million of cash, no debt, but a lot of scars in the process that took us from 2004 to a year ago.
Thanks. You mentioned Pennsaid. Actually, Pennsaid 2%, I think, is your main product. Could you elaborate a bit more about Pennsaid, its market opportunity, and what problem exactly it is solving?
Sure. So Pennsaid and Pennsaid 2% are topical NSAIDs. So NSAID is an acronym for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Most NSAIDs are oral. You take them with a pill. So examples of oral NSAIDs would be aspirin is an oral NSAID, ibuprofen, which is the active in Advil, Celebrex. Those are all oral NSAIDs. They work quite well to treat pain, usually pain from arthritis. However, they have some fairly nasty side effects, in particular gastrointestinal bleeding. So there's about 15,000 people a year that die from taking oral NSAIDs chronically in the United States. And then there's cardiovascular issues as well. So with Pennsaid and Pennsaid 2%, we developed a product that is topical. So you apply it to the affected joint. There's a transdermal carrier that takes the active through the skin to the affected joint, and you sidestep all of those systemic side effects that I just mentioned that are inherent in the oral NSAIDs. So we've got something that works just as well as the orals, but is safer.
Okay. I understand. For the next few years, where do you expect growth to come from?
Well, Pensate 2% at the moment, which is our lead product, is approved only in the United States, and it's sold by Horizon Pharma, who's our partner. We don't have a sales force. We
Okay.
rely on strong commercial partners in each geography in order to sell the product. So Horizon has done a terrific job. They launched it in 2015, selling about 2,000 prescriptions per week. And by the end of 2016, they were selling about 10,000 prescriptions a week.
How much is it in revenue?
Well, revenue to Horizon is a little bit different than revenue for us.
Okay.
Our revenue this past year is going to be somewhere between $26 and $27 million. About 85% of that comes from us supplying product to Horizon, which they turn around and sell. As I mentioned, we manufacture it at our plant in Varennes. So in the United States, we're certainly anticipating that Horizon is going to continue to grow that product, and those sales will grow. So that's one source of growth. As I mentioned, Pensate 2% is only approved in the United States, so we're in the process of getting it approved and securing licensing partners to make it a global brand. So we have a business development vice president that's in active discussions, again, with a number of regional partners that have sales forces in their territories. We license them the rights. They pay us typically an upfront payment. They pay us a royalty, and then we enter into an exclusive manufacturing agreement with them, and we supply the product out of our Varennes plant, so we also make a margin on it. So that's how we make our money around the world.
Okay. In terms of those out-licensing opportunities, maybe you could educate our followers a little more about maybe the differences between Canada, the U.S., other international markets.
Good question. I mean, in the United States, as it is with a lot of pharmaceutical products, drug prices are very high. There's very healthy margins for people that can actually get their drugs through the approval process. And that's the case with topical NSAIDs like Pensate and Pensate 2%. The rest of the world is quite different. Around the rest of the world, there's a number of topical NSAIDs that have been approved. In the U.S., there's only 2. But the prices are lower, the margins are lower. However, people tend to use topical products a lot around the rest of the world. In North America, we're still largely a pill-popping society, not so around the rest of the world. So we believe the opportunity for us around the world is probably greater than it is in the United States alone. However, we'll get at it in a different way. We'll probably have lower margins but sell a lot more product.
Okay, thanks. To generate growth, do you have other opportunities, maybe an M&A strategy that you could explain with our followers?
Sure. We certainly would like to acquire other products. We're not interested in products that require a lot of drug development. As I mentioned at the beginning, we've decided to exit that risky early-stage drug development game. But we are looking for products that we can have global rights to or rights in significant territories. But ideally, we want to be able to manufacture them as well.
Okay.
So that limits us a little bit in the sense that at our Varennes facility, we can do liquids, gels, solutions. So that puts us in topical pain. Dermatology products are often topically applied, some women's health products. So very likely our M&A opportunities will be in those areas.
Okay, thanks. For 2017, what should we expect in terms of goals, milestone for Nuvo?
Well, certainly keeping our eye on the prescriptions in the U.S. is important. That's the Horizon growth. Without licensing for Pensate 2%, we certainly expect to be entering into a number of licensing agreements this year, which will be important. I should caution that by the time local licensees get regulatory approval, it probably won't generate money until the end of next year or early 2019. And then we also expect to do a couple of M&A deals this year. So really 3 pillars of growth: U.S. growth, out-licensing of Pensate 2%, and M&A.
Okay, before we wrap this up, could you tell our audience, John, where they can find more information about Nuvo, please?
Sure. We have a website, so www.nuvopharm.com.
Okay.
But we are a small company. If somebody has questions, they look at the website, they see our investor presentation, they can call me. It's that simple.
Good, thanks. Donc, c'est tout pour notre entrevue avec John London de Nuvo Pharmaceuticals. Je vous invite à visiter notre site web espacemc.com pour plus de contenu intéressant sur les microcaps. Merci.